So Chris is what he's referred to by most of his friends. Mr. Thompson is what his bank manager calls him. And the Wolf is what his opponents refer to him as. Welcome, Chris Thompson. Thank you so much for your
Thank you
time.
very much.
And thanks for jumping on with me and having a little bit of a chat about who you are, your career, and hopefully a whole bunch of other shit that pops into our heads while we're talking.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, and thank you very much for taking the time to, speak to the fighters and give us a little bit of a platform to be exposed on.
Absolutely. My pleasure, as always. So, Chris, you professional boxer, 14 bouts in, your current record sitting with 11-2-1. We'll talk a little bit about that one later on in this conversation, but I recall seeing you back 2018, Times Square. You fought Knife Didier that night. And I remember sitting there going, holy shit. Here's someone that I think is going to be great for South African heavyweight boxing, great for boxing in general. And absolutely, I look at the career since then, having done a lot more homework, obviously, in build up to this conversation. First of all, what got you into the sport of boxing? Because as I understand, you didn't have much of an amateur career in the sport.
Yeah, I didn't have any amateur background. Back when the guys were boxing in the amateur scene, I was doing other sports. In school, I swam very competitively. I represented the country when I was in school, and thereafter my matric year, I started to play rugby. I always played rugby, and then I took it quite seriously, and I went on to play carry cup with Sharks. I then broke my knee, my left knee, and had to have a left knee replacement. And I just from that injury, I just lost my interest in the sport of rugby, and it kind of left me. It leaves you in this place like I always knew I was going to be a sportsman as a child, and I was a rough kid, and we always used to fight in the streets. And I was with a group of friends that we used to like going out to the club and getting into a fight. Like in an innocent way. As a young teenage boy, it was nice for us to go out and get into fights at clubs and get drunk and do irresponsible things. And I used to enjoy it. And a lot of people knew that I liked going out to a club and getting in a fight afterwards. It was one of those things. So I always had a heart for boxing and or for fighting. And then a very good friend of mine, Lal Karam, was actually an EFC fighter. And Lal was doing very well in the EFC, and he did phenomenally. And then the one day he kind of invited me to a gym to train with him, and we had a little bit of a spar, and I enjoyed it. And then like 2 years later down the line, when I broke my knee, I decided, I'm actually pretty good at fighting. I'm good at street fighting, and let's see if I can be any good at fighting. So initially I knew I couldn't go into MMA because of my knee replacement. My whole left knee is full of titanium, and I've got pins and stuff. And so I was at lunch with my fiance now, my girlfriend at the time, and she said, well, why don't we just go to a boxing gym? And I drove down the road to Gert Schoen's boxing gym, and I walked in there and I said, I want to be a pro fighter. And like, this is me, like, oh, another one of these kids. And I was like, no, bro, I'm serious. I want to fight professionally. I think I can have a go. So he asked me, have you ever boxed before? I said, no, just shoot fights, you can be clever. And then I got it. He said, okay, cool. If you want to be a fighter, come tomorrow in the morning and you can spar. So no problem. And he made me spar Tommy Westhuizen.
Oh, my word.
And obviously, I knew nothing about boxing. I didn't know what was really going on. And he put me in the ring with Tommy. And Tommy actually put me in hospital that day. He broke my nose and gave me quite a bad concussion.
Oh,
and
okay.
So I went through to Olivedale. They sorted me out. Broke my nose, deviated my septum, recovered from the concussion, and I went back. And I said, well, okay, I'm sweet now. I still want to be a fighter. And he just put me in the ring with Tommy for like 6 months. And then 6 months down the line, he told me, sweet, you ready for your first pro fight? And then I fought Josh Pretorius in Durban as my first pro fight, and I won.
Yeah, I saw that. Having watched, having looked back at your record, having looked at a couple of those fights. I mean, we look at where Joshua Pretorius is right now. I mean, just recently having fought and unfortunately lost that vacant heavyweight title fight to Tian Fick. But I'm sure we're going to see you and Joshua probably square off again sometime real soon, because I think that could be a great one. I think you've both progressed kind of nicely in your careers. I mean, very similar sort of fight records, if I recall, from both of you. 13, 14 fights, each of you. So I'm kind of excited to hopefully see a Chris Thompson versus Joshua Pretorius, the Wolf versus the Red Beast.
The Red Beast. Oh.
Yeah, up soon. But going back to that story, my word, Gert Strydom, I'm probably, having spoken to Gert on many, many occasions, he probably, like you said, he has another one of these cheeky ass oaks, big guy, obviously, because you're a big guy, walks in and says, I want to be a pro fighter. He goes, okay, here you go. Let's feed him to a proper wolf. Yes, Tommy.
Yeah. Yeah, one thing I can tell you about Gert is he makes his guys very tough, and it was the right thing at that time for me. Some other guys might break and not come back, but for me it was a good turning point, and it shows you, does this kid want it? Does he not want it? Every guy says they want to be a pro fighter, whatever, or they want to be a champion of the world, but that's a great thing to say, but do you have the ability to, boxing or combat sports, it can take you to a very ugly place, it hurts you, it's a dangerous thing to do. So, you got to know that your fighter or that your guy is, willing to go to those places, because otherwise you'll get exposed, So that really made me a tough fighter.
And I suppose what you say is so true. I mean, it's not just tough on you or the, other combat sports athletes. It's, you're mentioning your fiance. I mean, it's got to be tough on her every single time you lace those gloves on, you step into the ring. I mean, she doesn't know, in what state you are going to return back to her. So yeah, I mean, there's all of those mental as well as physical things that you and those around you have got to deal with.
Yeah, 100%. To be honest with you, luckily, she loves to watch me fight, because obviously I normally do the winning, and normally give the beating. But sometimes I've had one pretty bad loss, and we take those in our stride and we move on.
So Chris, let me ask you, the fight name The Wolf, where did that come from?
To be honest with you, I've always been quite a naughty child, and not naughty but mischievous, always up to my own things, always up to my own devices.
Remember, naughty and mischievous are, it's just a definition. It's almost the same thing.
Yeah. So I was always quite a rough child, and my parents were very conservative, so they used to tell me all the time, no, you were raised by the wolves, we didn't raise you. Not because I was just crazy, and they were super conservative, and I was just this wild kid going around crazy, bro, doing crazy things, just dumb things. Riding my bike around the neighborhood, throwing stones through people's windows, so crazy.
What neighborhood was that? What neighborhood was that? I'm sure there's people listening or going to listen to this that are going to go, hold on a second, now we know who that was.
Yeah, that was us. Yeah, if you lived in Northwest in like 2000 and got dropped and stuff, don't see your windows, I'm sorry.
Oh, awesome. Okay. So that's
then at the time it got engraved in. Yeah, and then we went, when I sparked my pro license, after I got my pro license, we went for lunch. And then obviously I thought, well, now I'm going to have to come up with an A-list for the ring. But, I've always wanted to be a fighter that includes, everybody always says that fighting is like a lonely sport. You do it by yourself, and, you go in there and you fight by yourself. But it's not really true, You prepare with a whole team. You have a team of coaches, guys getting you ready for a fight, guys watching your opponents, and you've got a whole bunch of people supporting you, hopefully, So I always wanted to include people in what I did. And so, I wanted to have a name where, people could be a part of that and buy into something, And so that's why I named myself The Wolf, because it is an easy way of me saying that, there might be one guy walking in front of the fight, but there's a whole pack behind me that, support me, like my sponsors, like my fans, like my coaches, like my friends. they all support me and they all push me going forward. So, that's why I actually came up with the Wolf, so that, I might be the guy getting the ring, but there's a whole Wolf pack behind me. That's what my fans are called, and that's what I call them, is the Wolf pack. And, that's the reason why I fight. So that's also the reason why we can be successful. And that's hopefully the buy-in that I can have from the people, that I can show them my talent and they can buy into the Wolf pack,
Definitely. I think a lot of people lose sight, and a lot of athletes lose sight of the fact that there's that component as well, and that just you stepping into the ring, you getting the beating or you dishing out the beating as it happens in boxing, doesn't mean that it's only been you. Your coaches, your training partners, your family, all of them have been part and parcel of getting you to that point. So fascinating story in terms of, and great understanding of the Wolf and the Wolf pack. Thank you very much for that. Looking back at your career, you debuted back in 2017. You went on a 3-fight win streak, and then you suffered the first of your 2 losses, and you've literally only lost to one guy twice.
Yeah.
And Akani Putsi, you've lost to him in 2017 and 2018. The second time that you fought him, was that to try and get it back?
Yeah, look, if you're at the first fight, and I actually spar with Akani, and I see him quite often now, and I'm we're good friends, and I see Alan Tawil quite often as well. And I always say to them, they know I beat Akani that first fight, and it was a slugfest, and we pretty much just stood in front of each other and just hit each other as hard as we could. And no one went down. He got a point deduction in the 6th rounder, and he still won the fight somehow. I don't know how, but he won the fight. So then we were like, okay, I wasn't supposed to beat him. I was supposed to be an easy fight for him. Akani had a very good, very high amateur background, and competed in all the games and stuff like that. Had a couple of, he had a lot of amateur fights, and I hadn't had any amateur background. It was my 4th fight ever, and I wasn't supposed to give him that kind of a time. And I gave him a tough time, and somehow he got the decision with a point deduction in the 6th rounder. So we had to do it again. We ran it back, and in the second fight, he caught me with a very good overhand right, and he stopped me in, I actually can't tell you what round. I think the second.
It was early. It was early in the fight. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and so that's the in my heart, I believe I've taken one loss from him, but the record books show otherwise, and that's why there was a second fight, and it was a barn burner. I mean, if you ask anybody about that fight that was at that fight, it was an absolute barn burner. It was a very nice fight for me. I learned a lot from it, and I've got a lot of respect for Akani, and we're good friends now.
Talking about the lessons that you guys as fighters learn out of these fights. I mean, that first loss for you, you went into that 4th fight, you'd won your first 3 fights. The first one was on points, the second 2 were TKOs. Going into the fight, a lot of confidence. You're still brand spanking new in the sport, still got shitloads to learn in the sport. And then you guys decide you're going to get stuck in the telephone booth and just bang the shit out of one another. The fight doesn't go your way. You say you learned a lot of lessons. I ask a lot of fighters, and I ask this question from a lot of fighters, particularly at this moment in their careers. You got all this confidence going for yourself, and then you have this loss. How does it rack up with you, and how do you make sense of it in your head at that time? Because in your mind, you beat him. The judges said otherwise. The record books say, no, you didn't. There's that little red one against your name. But what are the learnings, and what does it do for you as a fighter to suddenly almost get knocked off that perch all of a sudden?
Yeah. The biggest thing is coming back from a loss. Champions lose. It's not if you win or you lose that makes you a champion. It's the persistence to believe that you will win a big major title, and those guys that believe and continue do. So when you take for me personally, when I took my first big loss, you have those thoughts like, gee, should I really carry this on? How badly do I want this? What did I do wrong? What could I have done better? And when you take a loss, it's not like this. If a fighter has to have, and I say this with the greatest of respect, if the fighter had to have the win ratio of what the Springboks did, he wouldn't be a very good fighter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You wouldn't be selling out stadiums. You wouldn't be on pay-per-view. You wouldn't even be considered for a world title if you had the win ratio to what the Springboks did. So, you know, when you take a loss in fighting, it's a big thing. And normally you take a loss alone, you know. When you take a win, you have thousands of messages on your phone. When you take a loss, you know, you'll be lucky to have 5. You know, you see the real people who will be around you. So, you know, it's a more, for that first loss for me personally, you learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about how badly do you want, you know, to succeed in the bigger scheme of things. And, you know, you also, you learn quickly who's there for, you know, the ride and the good times and the wins, and, you know, who's along there for the journey, and who's going to support you in the long run, no matter what. So, you know, for me, the biggest thing that I learned from that loss is, as much as I can celebrate a loss, you got a win. If I can celebrate a win, I've got to analyze a loss and see what I did wrong in order to make sure that if it happens again, you know, we get the W.
And obviously that's served you very, very nicely in your career since then, because obviously we look at the rest of your career. I mean, like I said, you've only lost to one guy twice, but since that second loss, you are now 7 fights undefeated. It's, you know, 6 wins and that draw, this last fight, which we'll talk about shortly. Obviously, like I said, you've brought a lot of that into your fight game, into, obviously fight IQ is a big thing, but having the right people around you, like you've mentioned, is also critically important. But let's now talk about this last fight, because this is the second time you've left the country. Because what I find strange is a lot of South African fighters, they're great prospects, but a lot of them don't go and fight outside the country, which really doesn't give fans the opportunity to see what they're like on the road. And, you know, being on the road is probably the toughest part of a fighter, because you're fighting in someone else's backyard, and it's their officials, it's their home fans. You maybe have 3 or 4 people around you, but for the rest of it, nobody wants you there. Nobody wants you to win. The first 100%. Time you fought in Tanzania, very successful for yourself. You got the win. This last fight, just judging by your Instagram post after the fight, promoter standing at the judges, and then that line that really got me sort of, wow, you were bitten by your opponent. What the hell, man?
Yeah, so, you know, going towards the end of the 4th round, you can go, if you run it back and go watch the fight, you'll see after the 4th round, he tried to throw a combination, he came in under my armpit, and this guy, he bit straight into me that I bled. And I turned and I said to the ref, as he bit me, I said to the ref, you see me lift my, because he bit me hard, man. It was so hard, someone must bite you for them to leave their teeth marks through a gum guard and for you to bleed.
Yes.
It was the most painful part of the whole fight. I was biting. I was so shocked also. I was like, what the fuck was that pain? Then I looked and I saw I was bleeding. I was like, that motherfucker just bit me. Then I said to the ref, I was like, hey, bro, this guy just bit me. Like, you can clearly see he just bit me. And the ref just said to me, carry on. Then Shannon, my trainer, it was like, let's say 15 seconds before the end of round 4 that he bit me. So Shannon saw him bite me. Shannon shouted in the corner, like, ref, what is, like, surely point deduction, something, disqualification, I don't know, something, say something. Then the end of the round went, and Shannon walked straight up to him and said, hey, what are you going to do about the bite? And the ref just said to him, carry on. I was like, you know, what the fuck? But, you know, in that situation, you know, I'm in a fight, and I kind of anticipated the fight for it to be a hard, ugly style fight. I knew that was going to kind of be their tactic. You know, them just thinking I'm the soft white guy from South Africa. You know, they come from a tough background. These guys are really tough. They've been through a hard military upbringing, and he spoke about it. And, you know, my respect to him for, you know, coming off the streets like that and coming from where he was. But I knew he was going to try and test if I had that dog fuck in me. And, you know, luckily for me, I do. So I didn't let the bite bother me too much. I also didn't, everyone kept telling me, why didn't I say something about the elbows? And, you know, I just didn't let those kinds of things get to me. I didn't want him to think that his dirty boxing tactic was going to get to me. And I just tried to stick to my game plan. But I even went up to the officials. And also what irritated me about it when I watched the fight back is that their commentators were making a joke about me getting bitten, like it's a funny thing. I was like, where in the world do you react like that from a bite? You know, obviously you can see it's the hometown cooking. They're making a laugh, saying, "Oh, is it a love bite on his nipple?" Where the guy's biting me that I bleed. You know, I had to go get a tetanus injection. You know,
Wow.
it could have easily got infected. Well, yeah, it bit me through my skin. It pierced my skin. So, and then that was also a bit irritating for me to be hearing that the commentators are making a laugh about it. You know, obviously it's their hometown guy. You know, the promoter is from his hometown, the guy that put on the show. So, you know, you got to understand these guys are going to make it seem like whatever happens is okay and funny. Whereas, you know, it's pretty illegal to be biting somebody.
Yeah. I think it's a little bit more than illegal in a boxing fight.
Yeah. But it is what it is.
So, yeah, unfortunately, it is what it is. You've got that that draw. Now, the discussions with the promoter afterwards, I mean, what now? And I'm talking just that fight. Forget about the future and what's next, what Chris Thompson wants. But that fight and what was the promoter's reaction to the events that took place, the dirty boxing, the elbows in the throat, the bite, sort of on your torso.
To be honest with you, I did not speak to the promoter after. I didn't engage with the media. I'm a person that would never want to speak out of anger and say something to people that I don't want to say. So when they try to interview me after the fight, I just said I don't want to do any interviews. Obviously, I was very bitter with the decision, it being a draw, where I felt I clearly won the fight. And also nothing being done about the bite was just a big irritation. And then the promoter standing at the scorecard. So you can imagine my frustration in the time. I was very annoyed. So I didn't do any media afterwards. I just went straight back to the hotel, showered, and head straight back to South Africa. So I finished my fight probably at about 11:30 in the evening. And myself and Shannon flew back to South Africa at 3 a.m. that same morning. Went straight back to the hotel room, showered, had a little food, and flew back to SA. There's nothing really I can say to what I say to the promoter. They are going to allow us to do that. And, you pick up on, like what you said earlier, when you travel, it's tough, They're against you. They do things to, screw up your rhythm and mess with you. Like if you watch the fight, you could see beforehand they played his music for me to come out to. I said, no way, I'm not coming out to this guy's music. No, you joke. I've given him my music. I've given him my entrance song. They then played the wrong song again. And they made me come out to a song that I didn't, put forward at all. But, those are all small mind games that they play with you before you fight somewhere. Before the fight, like right before my fight, the promoter came into my locker room and asked me about my gloves and checking my gloves. And I was like, bro, these are official gloves. If you guys fucking seen, they made a big problem about it. He came in, walked out. They play these little games with you and you just have to be willing to adapt and overcome. And that's why when they played the wrong music, I didn't care. When they, when they were chanting, playing the wrong things and going crazy at us, you expect it. And I just don't let it get to me. I know I'm there for a job. But, I would recommend that people go on the trot, especially when you get to the top level and there's, tens of thousands of people against you. You feel that energy.
So let's talk about what's next for Chris Thompson. I mean, obviously, you've built up a sparkling record at the moment. 14 fights down. I mean, you've got 11 wins. What's next? I mean, and I say that sort of throwing the following in. I mean, you've surrounded yourself with some phenomenal athletes. I mean, you're training with Kevin. I mean, we also know Kevin now, just having moved up to heavyweight from cruiserweight, having having relinquished all of his titles. You're training with Isaac, and then obviously that sneaky lad, Boyd Allen. He's part and parcel of the training repertoire as well. But you're training with a lot of guys,
Yeah.
and Thabiso Mhlongo, another one of those, and we'll talk about his upcoming fight now as well. But what's next for you? Because you see all of this happening around. Boyd coming back into MMA. He wants to now do both sports. You've got Thabiso now fighting for a big title coming up now, the WBC Cruiserweight title. You've got Kevin now moving into the heavyweights after some fascinating heavyweight boxing in the last sort of month and a bit. Where do we see Mr. Thompson, the Wolf, finding himself moving towards in the next couple of months?
Yeah, as you say, you mentioned all the other athletes that I've been privileged enough to work with and, work alongside and spar and do conditioning with. And, it's great to be around such a group of people, there's a nice thing, when you sit with winners, the conversation is different, and when you're around people like that, the energy system is different. So, to all of those guys, I love them all. Boyd is a very, very close to my heart, and Boyd and I are very close. And we try and structure our training quite similarly together, both at Performance Purist and also, boxing wise at his gym at Apex, and we try and support him as much as possible. And obviously, having been with Tabs, I was been with Thabiso a long time. Me and Tabs were main sparring partners for 4 years, and that obviously elevates your game. Thabiso helped me a lot. Sean Smith also helped me a lot, putting me in the ring with Thabiso. You're fighting a guy that's number 1 in the world, number 2 in the world, about to fight for the WBC world title. I see Thabiso is now ranked number 3 in the world. And, having been overseas with Thabiso, going away, helping him prepare, winning for those titles, it's been a big blessing, and it's sped up my career, let me say that. Because as I said earlier, obviously I haven't had an amateur background, so I've gained a lot of experience from these guys, gained a lot of business side knowledge from Kevin. He's helped me out quite a lot. He's given me some very fair pieces of advice. And, it's nice to see them doing well, and, Kevin moving up into the heavyweight division, and, all these guys doing so well, Boyd being able to be such a good hybrid athlete. It's nice for me to see that, but at the same time, I still have my own journey, I'm still on my own mission. They're on their path, and, I'm on mine. And for now, I want to chase the number 1 ranking in Africa. Obviously, Kevin moving up to the heavyweight division, we've always got good work in, and he is obviously quite a couple levels ahead of where I am in my career. But, I've got my own journey. I want to, now on the 26th of November, I've got a nice fight for, the African heavyweight title in Pretoria under Fifth Element. So, that's my next step. I want to win that. The one fight I really want to have is I want to fight Keon Fix for the SA heavyweight title. I don't believe that title is being given justice, and I don't believe it's being fair enough, and I don't believe Keon is better than me and should hold the SA heavyweight title. So that's also another fight I want to have. And then, to be honest with you, I would like to rack up all the local belts. I would like to rack up the IBF heavyweight African title, the WBO heavyweight title, the WBA heavyweight title. And, once I have all of those African belts, and once I'm the true king, as to say, of Africa, and have all those belts, then we will make our jump. And then, then I'll explore the overseas. Luckily, I've got a very good promoter overseas. Ivalo got Steph. So he makes good decisions, and he's able to put me on all of these shows, both abroad and at home. So, it's a big blessing. And myself and my management team, Pro Sports, we make decisions together. So for now, our next step is to win the ABU, the full ABU African heavyweight title on the 26th of November. And then I won't fight again this year. I've been very busy this year. So I would, we're just going to tune up the skills thereafter, and then we'll be back in the new year. And I'm hoping my first fight in the new year will be for the heavyweight title. If not for the SA heavyweight title, then I'll fight for the WBO African or one of those.
Wow, I mean, that's definitely got the pathways sort of very much pictured in your head. I look forward to I look forward to watching that journey. Lots to come, lots of fights ahead of you. The next 2-3 years are going to be spectacular years. Hopefully, as many wins as you can get under the belt, the better, obviously. But
all the wins, baby.
Yes, absolutely. Final question for you. WBC cruiserweight title, Tabiso up against Junior Makaba. Your thoughts? Final thoughts from Chris Thompson on who takes that. Obviously, I'm going to preface it by saying I'm assuming you're going to be biased because he's a training partner of yours. But your thoughts on that fight?
Look, I'm going to be straight up honest with you, and I'm not gonna spare any words. I'm not gonna beat it on the bush. I'm definitely going to be biased, but rightfully so. If you go watch the first fight with Tabiso and Junior, Tabiso schooled him. But when I say he took him to school, he was holding Junior's hand and took him to school. For 7 rounds, he destroyed. Junior wasn't even in the fight. Then, unfortunately, Tabiso gassed and Junior knocked him out. Will that happen again? I cannot see that happening on this planet ever again. Obviously, knowing Tabiso very well, Tabiso is very hungry to end of his career where he should be on top of the world, champion of the world. And, you know, obviously the WBC is the most prestigious belt at the moment. And
correct.
I believe he deserves it, to be honest with you. He's done everything in boxing. He's done it all. And, you know, it's his time now to shine. So I personally think Tabiso is going to beat him. I think it's going to be a point decision. You know, Junior is extremely tough. You know, Junior is, yes, he's a dog. And that's what makes it such a tricky fight. You know, Junior just gets better and better and better as it goes along. And, you know, also luckily for Junior, he's been involved in some really tough fights, you know. As of late, he's had some really, really, really tough fights. He's gone overseas, beat guys in Russia. He's fought at home and beat Russians at home. He's gone back overseas and beat those guys. He's been on the trot and he's defended his belt. And, you know, he's been in the ring with some serious fighters. But, you know, then again, so is Tabs. I mean, look what he did to Dennis Lebedev.
Yeah.
He schooled him properly.
Yeah.
Then they went to Russia and, I mean, let's call it like it is. They took him as an opponent for that Olympic gold medalist. They weren't looking for a tough fight. They took him as an opponent. They wanted Tabiso's ranking. And, you know, if you haven't been to Russia, you don't understand what a big deal it is to be a gold medalist in the country. And how well you looked after, and the pressure that Tabiso was under from those guys. You know that what is his name? That tall guy that he fought in Russia when I was in Russia with him. Chisenko. He fought Chisenko for in Russia for the WBC silver, and they were all rooting. Obviously, that's their guy. That's their gold medalist. You know, especially for the Russians to have a gold medal being banned in the Olympic Games.
Yeah.
Very big deal. Like a very big deal. You have no idea. And the people, they love him and he's supported by the government and it's crazy. And Tabs handled that. Obviously, I was in the corner for that fight and I helped Tabs. You don't understand what to do. Handle that like a real class act world champion. It was unbelievable to see. He didn't let it bother him. They messed him around with lots of media things. He just handled it cool-headed. And, you know, after the fight, you don't know what that. I was in the drug room with them. It looked like Tabiso hit that guy with a fucking baseball bat. It was crazy. I've never seen a person look like that after a fight. That guy's body was like brown. His face was swollen. Tabiso really put the hurt on that. The guy's big.
He's huge. Yeah.
Huge. And Tabiso schooled him. But like, I'll never forget this. So we were all worried about his rangy jab. And so we trained a lot to pull the jab and throw the left hand. And in about the first 15 seconds, this Chisenko threw a very snappy jab. And as he threw the jab, Tabs just pulled his left hand. And I knew as he landed that, I said, this guy's not going to have his jab working the whole night. And Tabs did it like 2, 3, 4 times consecutively. As he jabbed, he pulled the left hand and hit him with his left hand. And then Chisenko's jab went. It was nowhere. Then Tabiso schooled him. So, you know, it's a great fight for Africa. We got 2 Africans, the Congolese guy, that's a fucking king, to be honest. Junior's a king. and he's a big boss. And you know, he's beaten everyone. He's been in the ring with Tony Belly. I mean, he beat that Sisliak there in Russia. He's a boss, you know. So it's not going to be an easy fight. Is it going to go deep waters? Definitely. But I think Travis is going to school him. Not school him, but he's going to outpoint him. He's going to flick him. You know, he's going to be how he is. He's going to have that shoulder roll. He's going to counter him with the left hand, and it's going to be a great fight for the fans. We the guys that are winning at the end of the day.
Well, thank you so much, Chris Thompson, for those thoughts. Thanks so much for getting to know you a little bit better. I can't wait to see November come around. See
and the new.
And the new ABU heavyweight champion. Absolutely. Can't wait.
Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris, thank you so much for your time. I look forward to it. Catching up with you in person soon. And until then, all the best with training. And I'm going to look out and see if I can come through to that event and see you in action, winning that ABU title.
Hope to see you there, 26th of November.
Chris, thanks. Have a great day.
Cheers, bro.
Bye.